chance to see them during the break, please take a look afterwards. They're on the table with the equipment. So please welcome John Paul.
Thank you very much. I've been with AAA forever, it seems like, 30 plus years. And what the chief was saying earlier about some of the scams, I know two people. One got sent $1,500 to some mysterious address because they were told their grandson was in jail in Mexico or someplace. And my nephew sent a couple $1,000s worth of gift cards to somebody because they said he owed tax money. And he just recently inherited about $10,000, so he thought maybe he really did. And so, and in fact, one time he lives on the South Shore. He was at the Hanover Police Department with one of the police officers. His phone rang and it said Hanover PD on his phone, and it wasn't coming from the Hanover Police Department. So, if you do, heed the chief's advice. If you do hear any of that sort of stuff, it's not a good idea. Not a good idea to respond to it at all, because you know, there's people out there who make a full-time career out of trying to take your money from you. So, yes.
And I have a strong feeling you belong to AARP. They sell their membership list. So now seniors are on the list, and seniors tend to be a big.
Yeah, I for years and years I could always say AAA never sold their membership list. I'm not so sure these days, but I know AARP does. The Registry of Motor Vehicles sells their registration list. They make money on it. You know, so don't, you know, if you wonder how your information got out there. In fact, today I got an email from something, and it was it looked like a health thing because it was like health and wellness benefits, something or other, and it was a very convoluted way to see the information. You had to go on something, download something, do something else, and I sent it to our IT department and said, is this a real thing or is this a scam? And he kind of said, well, I don't know, why don't you call Human Resources, because it looks like it's one of their things. I called our Human Resources department, and they got, somebody I talked to got exactly the same thing, and they're like, I don't think it's from us. I don't know who it's from, but good thing you didn't open it. So you never know what you're going to get. You know, if your computer pops up that somebody wants to take it over to make it better, ignore it. It's just a scam. Uh-oh. Well, I talked for too long. There we go. All right. Sorry about the blurry letters. I don't know what that's all about, but yeah, it's just age. It's not really blurry. It's perfectly sharp. You just can't see it. But that's what winter's supposed to look like, right? Yeah. Nice and pretty, and yeah, that's what it's, you know. But most of the time it looks like that, it seems like. I commute about 50 miles each way to work. I see more of that. People making mistakes in the bad weather and not paying attention. And all it really is some paying attention when you're driving. Every car should have, you know, should take care of maintenance on your car. Oil change before the winter time is a good idea. The average life of a battery in New England is about 4.5 years. If the battery in your car is 5 years old, or if your car is 5 years old and it has the original battery in it, get it tested and see what kind of shape it's in. When the battery's tested, they can give you usually a pretty good indication of what kind of shape the battery's in and how it's going to do. My previous car, the battery was about 7.5 years old. It was still doing pretty well until one day I didn't close one of the doors, and it stayed that way, just open a little bit over the weekend, completely drained the battery down. I recharged it all the way back up. It never came back up 100%. And in fact, at that point, because of both the age and the damage I did to it, I decided to replace it and put a new battery in it so I didn't have to worry about it. We'll go over some of the emergency vehicles you should keep in your car, so I mean emergency supplies. There's some handout materials that go into that over on the table right over there, and what to do if you get in a bad situation. You don't really have to do this, but winter in New England is what? Fun?
No.
Cold?
Cold. Cold and snowy.
Cold and snowy. I get nervous about winter driving when?
Snows.
When it snows. Anytime I have to go out, right? Ice, when there's ice. How about a couple of bad winter driving experiences? Anybody want to volunteer any?
Minnesota.
I had to take my doctor, my daughter, I won't tell you her age, but when she was a toddler, I had to take her to the doctor over in Dover. And so I live in Wayland on the Maiden Line, so we're going over there, and all of a sudden there was, snow and ice on the road. I skidded right across the street, and there was a telephone pole, but fortunately I didn't hit it. And then I had to go to the doctor, then I had to take her back home, and then I had to take her back to the doctor again the same day, but all was well. Thank you.
Well, that's good, all is well, because it doesn't always turn out that way. So winter can be pretty treacherous and can be pretty tricky. So to prepare your vehicle for winter, good tires are important. Winter tire, if you have to be out before the snow plows are out in the morning, good winter tires. There's no substitute for winter tires on your car. Like I said, the battery, if it's more than 3 years old, have it checked. If it's more than 5 years old, maybe even think about replacing it. At the previous AAA office in Rockland that I worked at, we had a service called our Auto Diagnostic Center. We would bring people's cars in, check them out, and we found that some batteries started to fail as early as 3 years old. So we'd be seeing 3-year-old cars, and my wife has a 3-year-old car, and I still think of it as brand new, but realistically that battery could be starting to go bad. Tires are the only part of your car that touches the ground, and it's really important to have good tires. This diagram, I think I stole from Tire Rack or somebody, or National Highway Traffic Safety. New tires from 60 miles an hour will stop in about 170 miles an hour will stop at 195 feet. Worn tires, 290 feet, and ball tires, almost 400 feet. So in other words, if the tread on your tires is not good, you're not going to stop the way you should. In fact, years ago, we always used to say take a penny and put it in the tread, and if it didn't come up to Lincoln's head, it was time to replace it. Now we say take a quarter, do the same thing, and if it doesn't come up to, who's on a quarter? Washington. If it doesn't come up to Washington's head, think about replacing them. It's about twice the thickness, twice the tread depth, the difference between completely worn out and 4/32 of tread. We did some testing at AAA and found in wet weather conditions, so yesterday for instance, if you're driving along, you hit the brakes at 60 miles an hour, if your tires are closer to worn out, it could add 60, 70, 80 feet to your stopping distance. Just replacing them when they get around 4/32 is money well spent. So, yes sir.
Don't get fooled even with new tires, like it is right now, wet leaves on the street.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Wet leaves will be a problem. Black ice will be a problem, especially as the temperatures start to change right now, and the roads get damp overnight from the different changes in temperature, and you get this little thin layer of ice on kind of the shadowy parts of the road. A friend of mine used to commute back and forth from the Cape all the time, and there's one section of Route 6 where it kind of dips down, and it's the most dangerous road I've ever seen. It's black ice almost every day, it seems like, at some point early in the morning, there's no real warning it's going to happen. It's such a small little layer of ice. So, snow tires, are they really winter tires? Well, I used to work at a tire store when I was young, and we always talked about snow tires. Now we don't talk about snow tires as much as we call them winter tires, because the formulation of the rubber of the tire works better in cold weather. So regular tires, and especially if you have, and it doesn't have to be a sports car. If you have a car that has touring suspension, and that can be a minivan, it can be all kinds of different things, but it has kind of performance-oriented tires on it, those tires, when the temperature drops below 40 degrees, can get hard, and they don't stick to the road. So a little bit of moisture with really cold tires, all of a sudden that car is slipping and sliding all over the place, and you think there's something wrong with it. No, the tires just really aren't meant for cold weather. So again, look at your tires, if they actually say M plus S on them, and they have that little mountain next to them, those are actually really considered snow tires. If they just say all-season tire, it's like clothes that one size fits all. Well, they fit most, they don't fit everybody. And all-season tires are pretty good in most weather conditions, and that's what most of our cars have, is all-season tires. And they're pretty good in most weather conditions, but they're not gonna work as good as a snow tire, especially in heavy, deep, wet snow. Like I said, tires and stopping distance, just again, all-season tires work pretty well. On dry pavement, 134 feet. In wet pavement, not quite as well. In snowy pavement, with winter tires, they do, they stop at about 310 feet, so almost 2.5 times as much. But you put an all-season tire, what we have on our cars, most of us, and put it on a snowy road and go to jam on the brakes, it's gonna take us 6 football fields to stop. So again, all-season tires are great because they kind of do a little bit of everything, but they're a little bit of a compromise too. So again, if you have to be out early, if there's some reason you have to be out early in the morning. My wife babysits for our nephew's kids. And they used to live about 10 minutes from our house. Now they moved. They had a third kid, and to be able to afford the house big enough for 3 kids, they moved about 45 miles away. And my wife still goes and babysits a couple days a week. And, so this morning, she was leaving the house at 6 o'clock. So if it, so she could go there and get him on the bus and whatever else she does in the morning. So, if you have to be out at those times, she's already told the mom, first snowflake, I'm not coming. Yes, sir.
What's the difference in the life of a all-season tire versus a mud and snow tire?
An all-season, typical life of any tire is 40 to 60,000 miles. So if you have a good all-season tire on your car, it should last 40 plus thousand miles. A winter tire, if you get 5 seasons out of it, you're doing pretty well. So if you put them on in the winter, take them off, put them on in the winter, take them off, 5 seasons, by the time the tire is 5 or 6 years old, it's probably been beat up enough from taking it on and off the rim, or just the rubber started to crack and deteriorate a little bit, where you might want to think about giving them a real close look before you plan any long trips with them.
Well, you're talking then, you're not keeping winter tires on all year?
I wouldn't keep winter tires on all year because they're a little bit heavier, and especially if they were these, those are studded winter tires. They have metal studs in them, or plastic studs in them, and those you have to have off by April 30th. So, make sure all your lights work. It seems like I guess I'm kind of a geek, and as I'm driving down the road, I look and go, that car's got a headlight out, that car's got a tail light out. It seems like these days everybody's got a light out somewhere in their car. Make sure they all work. Clean the headlight lenses. They can get really dirty, especially in winter weather, and then you go out at night, you go someplace, and you're like, I can't see where I'm going. Well, the headlights are really dirty, and they're not putting as much light on the road. The brake system, winter weather and winter driving is not when you want to find out you have bad brakes in your car. So make sure that the brakes are in good shape. Again, a checkup before winter time for your car is like getting a physical for yourself. Just go in and, say you're going in for an oil change. Just say, hey, can you just give the car a good look over and see how I'm doing, and see if there's anything that needs to be done. How are the tires? How is the exhaust system? How are the brakes? How's the steering system? Make sure everything's in good shape with the car. I saw a relatively new Mercedes come off the highway the other day, and it looked like it might have only been 6 or 7 years old. It went around the corner and the wheel fell off of it. Now, what actually happened was part of the suspension broke because the wheel was still attached at the top, and it was leaning over on one side, and there was a very surprised looking person driving when that happened. And fortunately, it happened going about 3 miles an hour and not 70 miles an hour when they got off the highway. So having your car checked over is a good idea. Make sure the heating system's working the way it should. And you don't want cars still can freeze up in bad weather. They can still antifreeze if it's not mixed properly. I was talking to a woman just today who had her son, or grandson, was over tinkering around under the hood of her car, checking everything for her, making sure it was all okay, and apparently he forgot to put the radiator cap back on. Well, she drove to some appointment. When she pulled up, all of a sudden there was water and steam coming out everywhere, and she pulled over and she said, she opened the hood and let it cool off, and somebody came over to help her, and she added about a gallon of water to the car, and then put the radiator cap back on. But now she's got to make sure that she gets that checked, because if cold weather comes, that could freeze up, and that could cost her a lot, including an engine. So making sure that the heater and air conditioner's working the way it should. I just got a call from some newspaper the other day and said, tell me why heaters don't work right. What's the biggest problem with the heater not working properly? I gave them my thoughts on it. I said, the heater's not just to keep you comfortable, it's also to make sure ice and snow doesn't build up on the windshield of the car. When you put it on defrost, you are adding a certain amount of heat up to the windshield, and that can be enough sometimes to keep the windshield wipers from accumulating with snow and ice in bad weather. So you need to make sure the heater's putting out the temperature it should put out. Clean the windows? Yeah. I got in a rental car a couple months ago, and the car looked spotless. And I drove out into the sun, I couldn't see. The inside of the window looked like it was greasy almost. And if you're driving in bad weather and you get that kind of glare, you're not going to be able to see where you go. The best way to clean a car window. The window cleaner I like to use is one of the cheapest ones on the market. It's called Sprayway. It's in a blue and white aerosol can. So it's like old-fashioned Windex. Comes out foamy. I spray it on, wipe it off with a paper towel, and then I take a microfiber cloth and go over the windshield afterwards. And that gets any of that built up accumulation of grime and dirt off the just and you can buy Sprayway at just about any department store or supermarket even. So make sure the windows are good and clean. Windshield wipers. Anybody ever driven down the road and there's ice built up on the windshield wipers and they're trying to like put down the window and try to knock the ice off at the same time? Winter wiper blades will help prevent that, but just having good windshield wipers can help. And make sure your windshield washers are working okay too. A few years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago now, there was a shortage of windshield washer. Who knew there'd be a shortage of windshield washer? And some of the discount stores got some in. And it said windshield washer, and I looked at the container, and it said good to 32 degrees. Well, it must have come from Florida. They must have ordered a trailer load of it from Florida. And I'm like, well, anybody who puts this in their car is going to freeze. So you look and see what it says and make sure everything works. Don't drive like that. That's a real picture.
You can get ticketed now for that.
Kind of. In Massachusetts, we've always had a law that said you're responsible for anything that comes off your car. It falls under a failure to secure a load is really what it is. So if you had a pickup truck or a tractor trailer and something fell off of it, it's your responsibility. That's kind of what they say. If you could manage to drive like that, if all the snow fell off and you caused a crash, somehow, you could be responsible under that law. Connecticut, last year, passed a law that says you can't drive around with snow on the roof of your car. And Pennsylvania, I think, did the same thing. There was someplace up near the New Hampshire border, the town tried to pass a law that said anyone driving around the town of, I don't remember, someplace, Gloucester or something, with snow on the car could get a ticket. There's no state law, but they tried to, I don't know how that ever really worked out. But that's just plain silly. And even if there was only 6 inches of snow on the roof of your car, when the car warms up, it's going to start to get unsticky. It's going to get slippery because it's going to start to melt a little bit. And then if you step on the gas, it's going to slide backwards and it's gonna run, it's gonna slide into me, right? It's gonna slide off the car and it's gonna hit me. What happens when I stop? It's all gonna go forward. It's gonna cover the windshield. I'm not gonna be able to see where I'm going. So what's the first thing you do? Turn the windshield wipers on. If you're lucky, if you're really lucky, it actually, wipers work. If you're not so lucky, then you'll blow a fuse for the windshield wipers. And if you're really unlucky, you'll burn out the windshield wiper motor, the thing that makes the wipers work. In some cars, many cars today, the windshield wiper motor is $500 or $600. So what used to be, you know, what you think might be just a $2 reaction or something, I'll turn the wipers on, and if it blows a fuse, it blows a fuse. Doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes it actually burns the motor up. So clean all the snow off the car for the people behind you, for you. Can't get good gas mileage that way either.
Oh, yeah.
This thing here, whoops, there, that thing, snow broom. In fact, they were made, the guy who made those originally, the BRUM snow brooms, was from out here somewhere.
My son just gave me one of those for the roof, but I'm not getting up on the roof, now I can use it for the car.
There you go.
Good, thank you.
But yeah, those work really good for cleaning all the snow off your car. We have in our household, we have a small SUV and a Volkswagen, and I can clean off both cars in no time in the wintertime with that. Just helps push the snow off the car a little bit easier. The expandable snow brush does a pretty good job. I like this. This is what all the car dealers use to clean the snow off the cars in the wintertime. And they used to be kind of a specialty item. They were hard to find, and now just about, you know, stores like Target and Walmart all have them. I talked about winter wiper blades. They're both a design of winter wiper blade. It's just instead of the snow sort of, if you looked at your windshield wipers, if you thought about the rubber part of the blade and sort of the fingers that hold the blade together, this style blade keeps the snow from building up inside of them. So whether it's the rubber covered one over to the side here or the single beam style, the snow just doesn't build up. Our last two cars, I replaced the wiper blades with something that was sort of an in-between of that. It had sort of a plastic shell over the blade. It looked like a regular windshield wiper blade, but the snow and ice wouldn't build up in it, and it worked out pretty well. I'm sorry?
You would use that all year then?
Yeah, the one that style, you use it all year. This style, thought I was going to sneeze. And the other style, the snow wiper system that says over there, that the rubber, because of the sunlight, the rubber that coats the outside of it tends to dry out and crack. So I would put those on in the winter and take them off in the spring. Like I said, get your car ready for winter. You'll find you get lousy gas mileage in the winter. Winter gasoline isn't as efficient. You tend to let your car idle more. You can conserve gasoline by being a little bit more efficient. How long do you need to warm your car up in cold weather?
No.
You don't.
There's the answer, you don't. All you really need to do is get in your car, start it up, even if it's 0 degrees up. Start it up. By the time you put your seatbelt on, find your favorite radio station, the car is warmed up enough. Now, you want to drive it easy until it gets up to temperature. Until you start to feel some heat coming out of the heater, drive it nice and easy, just like it's a brand new car. In fact, some cars, Toyota does it, I think Subaru does it, and I'm driving a little Nissan today, and it has a warning, a little blue light that comes on when you first start the car in cold weather. And it actually, the light indicates the engine's cold, and it just means sort of take it easy till that light goes out. And that way, you know, some people say to me, well, no, you need to warm up your car for 5, 10, 15 minutes. Well, you've warmed up the engine, but what have you really done for the rest of the car? The transmission, the suspension, nothing. So by allowing the car to warm up gradually, it's going to last a lot longer. Some people think I'm going to put premium gas in my car in the wintertime so it starts up easier. Nope. just costs you more money, doesn't do anything for you. In fact, premium gas, if your car doesn't need it, it's just a waste of money. If someone once told you, oh, to take care of your car, put high test in it, it'll last longer, it'll run cleaner, it'll be better, no, it's just a waste of money. Some gasoline has extra additives in it, but the additives go all the way across the regular, mid, and premium grades, and that gasoline is usually, it's most of the major brands, not all of them, it's not Texaco, but it's Shell and Mobil and Citgo and BP even, not the, like the Stop and Shops and the BJs, because they buy, their gas changes from week to week, wherever they're buying it, because they buy off the mercantile exchange and they buy price, so. Prepare the driver. You can't, I don't know if you can read this, but you see this kid all bundled up and it says, poor kid can't move, paraplegic. I saw somebody out on the Mass Pike one day, and they looked like they were dressed like that, sitting in their car. And they were waiting for back when we had tolls, right? They were waiting for their toll, and we were waiting in line. And I look over, the guy's bundled up like that, gloves, hat, scarf, everything, and I see him start to do this. And wake up. There we go. And did it again, and rolled into the car in front of him, which certainly woke him up. But you know, you dress like that, and you're in a car with the heat blasting out at 120 degrees, it's going to make you sleepy, exactly. You don't want to be that way. So you want to be comfortable, you want to be flexible, you don't want to overdress in the wintertime, because that might be the time you really need to take quick action if the car starts to skid. So mittens are great to keep your hands warm, not good to drive, use regular gloves. Fuzzy steering wheel covers, I've seen people with all kinds of things on their steering wheel, things that look like shag rug around the outside of it, and fuzzy things, and lamb's wool, and they're nice because you don't, your hands on a cold steering wheel. They're bad because they can slide off. So you don't want something that can slide off. And floor mats, there was a problem a few years ago with Toyota. They thought that was a problem. The Toyota floor mats would slide around, get caught under the gas pedal and brake pedal, and cars would take off by themselves. I think it was a whole bunch of nonsense, but also I got into actually one of our cars at work, and it had winter mats, so the big, thick, heavy rubber ones that can hold half a gallon of water, sitting on top of the regular mats. So there was a stack, so now there's this much stuff where you put your feet, and I'm willing to bet the gas pedal could have got stuck on the mat, maybe. So I said to the person, don't do that. But yeah, if you have floor mats that are sliding around, try to find a way to hold them in place. So what should you keep with you in the wintertime? Just about everyone has a cell phone. Make sure that you bring a cell phone charger with you, especially these new smartphones. My wife doesn't have a smartphone. I charge my phone every day. She charges hers like once a week, and she's on the phone a lot more than I am. And so, you know, smartphones need to be charged. Blankets, boots, gloves, hats, scarves, stuff for bad weather. Flares or emergency triangles, not a bad idea in case you do break down something you can put out to warn other drivers. And if you do put something out, put it way away from the car. You don't want to put it at the back bumper. Put it at the back bumper, it becomes a target for people. You put it way away from the car, now all of a sudden somebody sees it and it goes, what's that for? Oh, there's a car broken down. So if you do have a flare, or I'm too cheap to buy 3 reflective triangles and they take up too much room anyway. But I bought one. And a couple of years ago I got a flat tire out on 495. So, and it was on the left-hand side, so I kind of pulled over as far as I could. Cars are zipping by. I took my triangle, walked down the breakdown lane, probably 150 feet, dropped it down there. By the time I got back, someone ran it over. Better run it over down there than run it over next to me while I'm trying to change a flat tire. A small shovel, I have a little fold-up camping shovel I keep with me just in case. Depends where I'm going, but you know, if it's a car that I drive back and forth to work, which is about 100 miles round trip, almost anything can happen in that time. So I try to be a little bit prepared. Snacks and water just because. Jumper cables or jump packs, not a bad idea. There's two kinds of people in the world with dead batteries. You know, those who have jumper cables and those that are looking for people with jumper cables. So I've gone to, now they have these little rechargeable packs, and you can jump start a car with them, and they're $60 or $70 maybe. And now all of a sudden you don't need a helper. You just need just know how to do it. Call AAA. You can do that.
That's what they're there for.
About 4 million people called AAA last year here in New England. Flashlight just makes sense always to keep one with you. A lot of smartphones have flashlights built into them. That's good, other than if you use the flashlight and you kill the battery in your phone and you need to call for help, then you're stuck. Windshield washer solution, a first aid kit, and the first aid kit should have if you have any medication you need to take. So if it's something you need to take for heart, blood pressure, you know, you're diabetic, something, you should always keep a little quantity of it with you just in case. Those that are old enough to remember the blizzard of '78, where people were stuck in their cars for 3 days, you know, people in that case needed medication sometimes. There was one of the worst storms that I ever dealt with was driving home last year, and we very seldom ever send anybody home, but around 3 o'clock they said, you know, it's not looking so good out. Why don't you head home? It took me about 4 hours to get home, and it was a constant whiteout situation where you just couldn't see where you were going. And I was going probably 25 miles an hour, and I happened to be driving a big four-wheel drive vehicle. So the vehicle was good in the wintertime, and I was going slow, and I'd see people going by me, spin out, end up off the road somewhere. Slow and easy is what you do in the wintertime. And besides that, I don't think if I went 30 miles an hour I could see where I was going anyway. So slow was easy. In fact, I ended up pulling into a rest area, and to be honest, pulled into the rest area because you go to the bathroom. I've been in the car for 3 hours, and it was a Burger King or something. I pulled in, and when I went to pull back out, I couldn't actually find the driveway to leave. It had snowed over that much, and there was a tractor trailer sort of stuck, and I think he was stuck trying to get out, and I kind of went around him, and fortunately I was in a really good four-wheel drive, so it wasn't that much of a problem. But so what do? You're driving down the road, you go into a curve, and all of a sudden the car starts to slide. Panic? Jam on the brake and panic? No, not a good idea.
Drive with them.
Well, everybody probably heard steer in the direction of the skid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's a warning. You know, don't let that curvy road turn into that. So, steer in the direction of the skid. I never knew what that meant. The back of the car, the front of the car, I don't know. No, steer where you want the car to go. So if you're taking a turn and the car starts to skid straight, you still want to turn the wheel to the left because that's where you want the car to go. You want to take your foot off the gas. Don't step on the brake. And let the car gain a little bit of control. When you take your foot off the gas, and I don't care what kind of car it is, front wheel drive, all wheel drive, rear wheel drive, when you take your foot off the gas, gravity takes over, and inertia takes over, and the weight shifts to the front wheels. When it shifts to the front wheels, you get more control because there's more weight over the wheels, and you get more steering ability. So take your foot off the gas, don't step on the brake, because if you're skidding sideways, your anti-lock brakes are not going to help you. So take your foot off the gas, don't step on the brake, and the important part, look and steer where you want the car to go. Looking is important, because your hands tend to, when you're driving, your hands tend to follow where your eyes go. So, you ever been driving down the road and something catches your attention, you're like, oh, look at it. Next thing you know, you're almost on the sidewalk. what your hands do. So you have to, if you want to turn this way and your car is skidding, take your foot off the gas, look that way, and your hands will tend to follow your eyes and you'll turn in that direction. Now, if you turn too much, the car might do this a little bit. That's okay, because now you're out of the worst part. You're just trying to regain control. So then you might have to steer back just a little bit. So, and that's all explained in the brochure, how to go on ice and snow. So you don't want that to happen. So, like I said, when you start to skid, take your foot off the gas. Shift into neutral is what we used to say. I stopped saying it because people get all confused. Don't use the gas or the brake, and look and steer in the direction you wish to go. There are other situations where you want to step on the brakes. For instance, if you're driving along, winter weather or not, the car in front of you stops short and you weren't expecting it. Jam on the brakes all you can, and then you might find you can steer a little bit around it. Because most cars today, all cars today, have anti-lock brakes. Anti-lock brakes, besides help preventing skidding, will also allow you to steer the car somewhat too. So a good rule of thumb is, and it happens as we get older. When we get older, I think we get lazy and we tend to look more right in front of the car. And what we need to do is we need to look way up, way far ahead. Because especially in winter weather driving, you need to make sure your eyes are up and you're looking down the road, because something could happen way down there, and if you happen to see it, you have plenty of time to react to it. If you're only looking at the taillights of the car in front of you, by the time that person reacts, you're never going to have the time to react. So you need to make sure you scan way ahead and leave plenty of room. The other little tip is too, whenever you don't have your eyes on the road directly in front of you, get your foot just kind of hovering over the brake pedal. It takes about a half a second to a second to realize something happened. So whether it's a deer ran out in the road, a child ran out in the road, this is deer season, by the way, so be careful. But something ran in front of you or somebody stopped, it takes about a half a second to a second to realize that happened. Then it takes another half a second to a second to get your foot off the gas and on the brake. Well, if you have your eyes off the road because you're like, oh, I want to pull into that parking space over there, and your foot's already over the brake pedal, and you look back, and somebody stops, your foot's right there, you can stop. And the difference between a crash and one that didn't happen is only not much, right? As long as you didn't hit them, it's all good. Nervous, but it's good. So, anti-lock brake systems, if you have anti-lock brakes, don't pump the brake. Anybody know what they're, like I said, just about every car has anti-lock brakes. What happens when you jam on the brakes with anti-lock brakes? What do you hear? Noise? Conk, 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 all kinds, and you think the car broke. You're sure you hit the brake so hard something broke. That's what they're supposed to do. They've gotten a little bit quieter over time, but that's what they're supposed to do. They make noise. And that's okay. But sometimes what happened is when anti-lock brakes, I remember when they first came out, people would step on the brake and they start to pump the brake because they heard it make noise, and all that does is confuse the computer that makes it work. So, like I said, when it comes to a skid, look in the direction of your path of travel. Don't panic. Steer the vehicle in the direction you want the front of the vehicle to go. Avoid slamming on the brakes, maybe. Last ditch effort, then if nothing else fails, step on the brake. And then wait for the wheels to grip the road and the vehicle will start to steer again. So, a couple more things. Head restraint. A lot of people call it a headrest. Where should it be? Down low? Up high? I took it out because it's in the way. It should be about the middle of your head. Protection against whiplash. You want it to be there. Where should your hands be on the steering wheel? 10 and 2, right? Isn't that what we all learned? No, we don't want 10 and 2. We want it 3 and 9, 4 and 8. So if it's clock, 3 and 9, or 4 and 8. 4 and 8's better because you're sitting like this. Your arms are more comfortable. Blood doesn't have to go uphill. So it tends to be less tiring if you do 4 and 8. A lot of people like 3 and 9 because they feel it's quicker. I go back and forth. The registry and I got in an argument over it once. Michelle Alex, I don't know if she's ever been here from the registry, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she said to me, John, we teach 3 and 9. And I said, Michelle, I teach 4 and 8. And she said, how about if we both agree that people should just keep 2 hands on the wheel. I said, that's a good idea. And one last one, and only because I have this conversation with grandparents a lot. At what age should a child sit in a car with a traditional seatbelt? When they're big enough to. A lot of people want it, even sometimes a temporary drive, people say, oh, I don't need the booster seat, or I don't need the car seat. My kids never used them. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it'll be, before a kid can transition into a regular adult seatbelt, they might be 8, 9, 10 years old, depending on how big the kid is, and in the back seat until they're 13. So that's the best thing to do. People don't do this. Never warm up your car in a closed garage. Every year somebody dies of carbon monoxide poisoning because they opened up the garage door, then they went in the house and the garage door closed or something, and the house filled with carbon monoxide. Don't use your parking brake in the winter weather, it can freeze on. Keep your gas tank at least half full to prevent gas line freeze-ups. We still have some frozen gas lines from time to time. And it's not because of the moisture in the gas so much, it's the condensation that builds up in the gas tank. So keeping the gas tank full prevents the condensation. Compensate for inclement weather by being defensive in your driving, and give yourself enough time to get where you're going to go. I work with 600 people every day. And the amount of people that show up late for work on a snowy day because they're surprised that it snowed and they're like, and traffic was back. It's like, and they're all frazzled when they finally come in. They're like, oh, I was stuck in traffic and this and that. I'm like, how about getting up a half hour earlier when you know it's going to snow? Anyway, that's me, jpaul@aaanortheast.com. That blurry number is my phone number if you ever need to call me for anything. Any questions about anything to do with cars, winter, driving? Yes, sir.
I have a question. I know people that keep cars for years and years and years.
Yep.
Don't you think there's a safety factor living in New England?
Depends, the question was, people that keep cars forever and ever and ever, and is there a safety factor living in New England? If the car is well maintained, it's going to be perfectly safe. What it isn't, is it's not going to have the latest safety innovations, so it's going to be a perfectly safe 1971 Chevrolet Caprice. It's as good as it could be. Massachusetts is one of 16 or 18 states that have safety inspections. You go get your sticker every year, and now they're being really fussy because they have cameras watching them. So just like in here, this is what the shop looks like now. There's a camera there, there's one here, and then they have to take a picture of the car. So where they never used to maybe do as thorough a job, they're going a little overboard right now. But you still have to get your car inspected, and if you fail to get your car inspected, that's not good. But they do catch some of those things. But same thing, if you own an older car, when I used to run our auto diagnostic center, I had a fellow come in with a 71, no, he had 2 cars. He had an old Maverick and he had an old Falcon. So the Falcon was 65-ish, and he would come in with that. The car was perfect. It was safe as could be. Brakes were good, suspension was good, no rust, no rot. Anything he had was taken care of and repaired properly, but it was as safe as a 1965 car could be. It didn't have anti-lock brakes, it didn't have stability control, it didn't have traction control, it didn't have, barely had seat belts. So again, it's not an unsafe thing, it's just as good as it can be.
Well, that leads me to the question that really concerns me, is the rust. When you have your car for the safety inspection, do they check to make sure that the underneath isn't all rusted?
Well, they're supposed to.
They're supposed to.
Yeah, structurally, in Massachusetts, we have the inspection requirement is they're supposed to look for structural rust. So holes in the floorboards, the frame, if there is one, to make sure that it's solid.
Right.
We're not as concerned about the outside of the car. So if there's a hole in the outside, we don't care as much about that. New Hampshire they do, for instance, and I think Rhode Island, And the repair doesn't have to be very good. You can put duct tape on it and paint it, and it's close enough. But as long as the fumes can't get through it. But in Massachusetts, it's structural. So, and some of these older Buicks and Fords now that run like a top. Some of the Buicks from the 90s, they run great, but they're all rotted out. They're getting to be structurally unsound.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anything else? Yes, sir.
I don't know if you covered it, but, in the wintertime, we close all the windows. In the summertime or fall, we open the windows at least a little. But if our exhaust system is leaking, that's a real hazard.
Yeah, I think it came up, I might not have mentioned it, but yeah. And today's exhaust systems are lasting 10 years. You know, it used to be that, you know, one of the first garages I ever worked in, we did a lot of exhaust work, and like every 3 years, you put a muffler on your car. These are lasting longer, but they eventually do fail. And if you start to hear a little bit of muffler noise and you're driving around with the windows all closed up. In fact, I had somebody who was convinced there was something wrong with his car with carbon monoxide. And I told him to go buy a battery carbon monoxide detector, drive around with it in his car and see if it went off. And sure enough, it did. And there was actually a hole in the very front of the exhaust. And for some reason or another, there was a hole in the body of the car. And he bought the car used. And I don't know if it had a two-way radio in it or something, but somebody drilled a hole through the firewall, through the bulkhead of the car. And because the car got older, it was starting to leak some exhaust, and it was actually coming into the car through the little hole. And it was just enough. I was surprised it actually set off the carbon monoxide detector, but he had the exhaust fixed and gooped up the hole, and as far as I know, he's okay. Anything else? Yes.
My Canadian friends always laughed at us. So when we had snow, we closed the office, closed school. We have snow emergency, drive problem. They said that they never have this problem.
That's because they're tougher than us.
How do you compare?
I was in Canada one time, and I said, how do you deal with, you know, it's 10 below zero all the time. They're like 2 pairs of pants, you know. And I'm like, oh, well, I suppose, you know. But you do get used. Even I used to work for AAA Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and all of our company cars, the people that went out to visit the garages, they all put snow tires on their cars. The New Hampshire people didn't. They're like, you don't need snow tires. It was just I guess what you got used to. My sister moved from here to Georgia, and they close the roads when there's 1/8 of an inch of snow. They don't know. They have no idea what to do. So your Canadian friends, it's culture. It's just they're used to it. Just things, you know, you just have, like somebody in the room here said, in the winter weather, they park the car at the end of the driveway so they can get out. Yeah. So you don't have to shovel the whole driveway. And that's what I said to one of my coworkers one time. And she lives in a pretty nice house, and she's like, I couldn't get out. The plow guy didn't come yet. And I'm like, well, do you ever think about parking at the end of the driveway? I'm pretty sure your little 4-wheel drive vehicle could just drive through it. And she said, oh, I never thought of that. Anything else? No? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank
Great, thank you so much. It was a wonderful presentation. I learned a lot. So thank you all for coming, and thanks to John Paul once more.
No, what you said goes in reverse. I moved to New Jersey and lived there for 2